Hi everybody, I'm so excited you are here with me this special midweek message, 7 p.m. every Wednesday. We do the Congregation.Family midweek. We're so excited to have you. I'm so excited to have you. And enjoy yourself. If you're watching today on our website at www.Congregation.Family, let us know where you're watching from. I'd love a shout out. If you are watching this throughout the week, man, I'm going to build you up tonight. So I'd love to get into it. So the title of my message this week is When Purpose Calls. I think we've all had a moment in life where we felt, number one, called. And so called means to be called out, where that could be a person, or that could be God, or it's this feeling that we need to act. We need to act above and beyond where we're at. And so that's what it means to be called. And in life, we often feel called. And when we feel called, we're always called for a purpose. And so many of us, some people I've talked to, they felt like they were called to go into ministry, or they felt like they were called to start a business, or they felt like they were called to be a parent, or maybe they felt like they were called to step up and step out during a certain season. And so in life, at different seasons of our life, we get called. But when we're called for a purpose. And so that's what I want to talk to you about tonight. I have a feeling that someone out here is listening and they feel like, Pastor Stefan, I feel called. I feel like there's a purpose. I feel like there's something that needs to get done. I feel like God is talking to me in a certain way. I can see, whether it's in my family or my business or my church, there are needs, and I feel like there's a purpose, and I feel like I'm called to fulfill God's purpose in my life. And so tonight I want to read from Moses, and this is a story about how Moses got called up. He got called for a purpose by God, his creator, and Exodus 3. And so as many of you know, Moses was a prince in Egypt, and then he kills somebody and he becomes an outlaw, and then he runs to the desert, and he's been living in the desert for a long time, and he's been living in his father-in-law's house. And so he doesn't own the land, he doesn't have a big business, he's not a leader, he's not really living for any purpose. He's an outlaw on the run, living in his father-in-law's house, and God meets him where he's at, and he calls him for a bigger purpose than that. So let's read. This is Exodus 3. Now Moses was tending the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian. And he led the flock to the back of the desert and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire from the midst of a bush. And so he looked, and behold, the bush was burning with fire, but the bush was not consumed. Then Moses said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush does not burn. So when the Lord saw that he had turned aside to look, God called him from the inmost of the bush and said, Moses, Moses. And Moses said, Here I am, God. Then he said, Do not draw near to this place. Take your sandals off of your feet, for the place where you stand is holy ground. Moreover, he said, I am the God of your father, and the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look upon God. And then God said, I have surely seen the oppression of my people who are in Egypt, and have heard their cry because of their taskmasters, for I know their sorrows. I have come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, to bring them up from that land, to a good and large land, to a land flowing with milk and honey. Verse 9, Now therefore, behold, the cry of the children of Israel has come to me, and I have also heard their oppression, with which the Egyptians oppressed them. Come now, therefore, and I will send you to Pharaoh, that you may bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. So Moses was a man who did not have a great purpose in his life. He was kind of living day to day. He was a man who had been defined by what he had gone through. Many of us deal with that in our own lives. There's parts of each of our lives that is the way it is because of the circumstances of our lives. But yet in the midst of that, God will often meet us like he met Moses in the burning bush. And then he will call us out of the place where we have been. And then he will give us a purpose, a bigger purpose that would require us to change, that would require us to develop, to evolve, to take on something bigger than anything we've ever taken on. And when we find those calls in life, the answer should always be say yes to the call. Say yes to the call of purpose. Your life has a purpose. Everything God has done for you and everything God has put inside of you was for a purpose. And so now God is calling you out to fulfill that purpose in the world, to be the person you're supposed to be the leader you're supposed to be, to lead your family in the way that you were supposed to lead. And so when we say yes to the call of purpose in our lives, we say yes to three things. The first thing we say yes to is the call. And that is saying yes to what God is doing. And I love this verse because Moses meets God and God calls out Moses and Moses says, and God says to Moses, I have heard the cries of Israel. Translation, I am moving in a mighty way. Because God is God and God is a creator and God is God. So that means that when God is present, things are happening. Things are moving. God is always up to something. He's always creating. He's always restoring. He's always redeeming. He's always saving. He's always inviting all of us into his redemptive work in the world in and through his son, Jesus. And so when he goes to Moses, God is already on the train. He's already making the move. He's already put into place a plan. And that plan is to save Egypt. But he goes to Moses and says, Moses, I am calling you to be a part of it. I want you to step out from where you are now, and I want you to say yes to what I'm up to. I want you to answer the call. I'm on the phone. I'm calling you. I'm asking you to say yes to what I'm doing in the world, to what I'm going to do for Israel, and in that, God is asking us to say yes to the call. So when we take on purpose in our lives, the first thing we say yes to is we say yes to a call. And that is to do something on behalf of God and what God is doing in the world. The second thing we say yes to is responsibility. And so with every call, with every purpose, comes responsibility. I always think of Spider-Man, and Spider-Man is talking to his uncle, and his uncle always says, with great power comes great responsibility. The same is true with us. When God gives us the tasks, it comes with responsibility. When God gives us a bigger purpose for our lives, it comes with responsibility. When we discover who we are and all the gifts that God has given us, that comes with responsibility. Well, why? Because when God gives us a gift, when God gives us gifts, when God gives us skills, when he gives us resources, when he gives us a call, when he gives us a purpose, he's not doing that all for us. He's doing that for Israel. Translation, he's doing that for other people. And so God is blessing you so you will be a blessing. God is moving through you in a mighty way so you might be mighty in other people's lives. God is giving you wisdom so you might be wise, so you can lead wise, so you can support wise, so you can be a beacon of wisdom in and around the people around you. And so everything God gives us, it's for us. He gives us things so that we might become who we need to be, so that we might help the people that need help in every area of our lives. So number one, when we say yes to purpose, we say yes to a call. Number two, when we say yes to a call, we say yes to responsibility. And the third thing is, when we say yes to purpose, we also say yes to the journey. And so life is a journey. Every part of our lives, we're going to go through experiences and seasons where we're going to grow in incredible ways. And often when we're given a call and when we're given a bigger purpose, we've never done that purpose before. We've never taken on that responsibility before. And so there's going to be a learning curve. There's going to be a process where we're going to have to become the person God has called us to be. And you see that all the time. You see that a lot in business. You see that, for instance, I love this one thing where they were asking Elon Musk once about the timetables in his business. And so they were saying, hey, you keep saying you're going to make all these cars. Can you hit the deadline? And Musk said something so funny. He said, guys, I've never built a car company before. I've never scaled a car before. I've never built a rocket company before. So he goes, these are guesses, but I don't know because I've never done it before. And I love that, because what that shows is it shows humility, but it also shows that with purpose comes the journey. And so when we say yes to a calling, when we say yes to God asking us to be called up, we're doing something we've never done before. And so that means we have to become different people so that we could become the person that is able and capable to see that purpose manifest in the world. And so that's what's happening with Moses. And so Moses is a man who is hanging out at his father-in-law's house. He's not really responsible for that much. He doesn't really have a long-term vision for his life. He's kind of over the hill in many ways. He's just going to chill out. He never planned on going back to Egypt because of his legal status. But now God meets him and says, Moses, way more is in you, and I am calling you to be that way more. And if you say yes to that, you will mean way more for so many people that you haven't even met yet, that are waiting for you on the other side of your obedience, that are waiting for you to become the person you were made to be. And so Moses, I ask you to step up, step out, be called up, say yes to what I'm doing in the world. You could just hear it in Exodus 3, God's desire to unlock Moses and to call him up. And then he also tells Moses, I will be with you. Don't worry. When you say yes to me, when you say yes to the call of God and the purpose on your life, God will be with you. You're not alone. The learning curve you're going to have to go through is not something that you're going to be by yourself on. God is not only with you, he's going to be giving you everything you need in the process. He's behind you, he's with you, and he's in front of you. God is ordering all your steps. And so you get this sense in this passage that Jesus is saying that God is saying that to us. He's saying, say yes to your purpose. Say yes to the call I'm giving you. And when you say yes to that, what you will find is that it will begin a journey that will change your life. And it will be a journey you never thought you would go on, but it will be so much richer and deeper and more meaningful than anything you've ever felt or experienced before in your life. And so say yes to the call of purpose. And when you have that bigger purpose, it's amazing how much you'll change. And the reason why you'll change is because you have this incredible purpose. You have this capacity to run through walls. You have this capacity to be more than who you are. You'll have this capacity to trust God in ways you've never had to trust God before. Well, why? Because you're out there, man. You're answering the call. You're being faithful. And God says, if you answer the call, when I call you and you decide to commit your life to serving a higher purpose, great things will happen. You're saying yes to a journey and adventure of a lifetime. You're going to experience an intimacy with God you never thought possible. You're going to see change in your family, in your life, in the lives of the people you love you never thought possible. You're going to travel to places you never thought possible. You're going to meet people you never thought was possible. And you're going to find out one day that you're going to have it in you, that all the doubts you might have had, or all the fears you might have had, or all the feelings that I'm not enough, all of that just goes away. All it takes is saying yes to the call of purpose. And if you can just say yes, if you can just step up, if you could just be called up and say yes, if you could just get to a place where you say, I'm going to take this step by faith, I promise you that God will give everything to you that you need. And there's probably somewhere in your life tonight, and you're dealing with this midweek where you say, God, I feel fearful, I feel scared, I know what I have to do, I know what I should do, I know where you're calling me to, but I just don't feel like I have it in me. I just don't feel like I'm that person. I just don't feel like I can pull it off. I just don't feel like if I said yes, I could do it. And that's what Moses said to God. He said, I don't know, God, if I'm your man. And God said, Moses, say yes to the call. Say yes to the responsibility. And say yes to the journey. And I promise you, if you can say yes to purpose, your life will be so much more magical, so much more bigger, and so much more filled with God than you ever thought possible. What happened to Moses also happens to all of us. When we say yes to the adventure of faith and we decide to take on the call to be a person of faith, amazing things happen, because the God we serve is an amazing God. I'm done preaching tonight. I hope this blessed you. I hope you feel this week that God is with you. I hope you feel that you can say yes to whatever's calling you. And you can do it with strength. You can do it feeling like God is with you, feeling like you're not out here on your own. But the opposite is true, that everything that God has given you is there for a reason. You're talented for a reason. You're smart for a reason. You have wisdom for a reason. You're in your position for a reason. You've been given the promotions because of a reason. You've been experiencing the feeling of call because for a reason. All these things are all things that are there on purpose, all calling you to who you could be in God and what you could do in partnership with Him to reflect His glory in the world. Last note. We have something amazing happening July 11th. You don't want to miss it. Sunday, 10 a.m. Join us live at the Yorba Performing Arts Center. Check out all the information on our website. We would love to see you. You don't want to miss it.